Man, I think we live. I think we live. Peace and good evening, everybody. Um, I trust everybody's week is going well. Let's see if we can get this going properly. And as you come into the chat, bring your questions if you have questions. Otherwise, for people who aren't familiar, we are running classes. Some of these things you may find very basic, or maybe some things that you may know. But the idea is that these be the things that most people overlook. And this is some of the things that keep them basically stuck because they're not paying attention to actually what is happening within their finances, right? So as you come into the chat, peace, family, you in the building. Peace, peace, peace. As you come in, bring your questions. We're going to keep it pretty straightforward. We'll also mention just a couple of announcements and stuff like that. And we're just going to have fun, man. So I'm going to try to get into it. So let me set up my screen. See if I can do this correctly today. We're going to get this set up properly. Let's see. If I pull it up, it should show up. I need to call this person back. So. Who is this? Nah, definitely don't do that. Let me get this squared away so we can get this show on the road and get y'all out of here at a decent time. So let's do this real quick. All right, let's pull it up. PDF. It's on my computer. Should be here. Cool. And share this video with a friend, family, anyone that basically needs just a little bit of guidance on managing your finances or their finances, because this is going to be the practical step tool guide. And again, this may sound very basic, but we'll get further deeper into managing finances when it comes to businesses, and the specific businesses like nonprofits, holding companies, trust, LLCs and stuff like that. But right now we have to manage the basics, which is your finances, your personal finances. So let's do this. Okay. This is a beginner's guide, everybody. So the whole point of the point of why I'm doing this is because I want everybody who's even watching this video to get an idea of how to budget properly, how to save, and actually how to invest, build wealth, getting some of the basics down. Because if your household doesn't even have the means to get past the debt, past the savings, past the budgeting, past the overspending, you'll experience problems, and then you won't actually be able to build real wealth, right? Who is this? Yeah, okay. I'll take my letter. So hopefully that makes sense, right? So that's how I'm going to start off. We also have announcements, right? We have the community wellness experience. It's the 6-1 in Dallas, Texas. You can scan the QR code to get the information. But like I said, we're going to have a mixer on Friday, may even have some music playing, artists, stuff like that. Try some special drinks. And then as well as on Saturday, we'll have the actual information from economics to actually live cooking demonstrations where you'll be able to participate in cooking, understanding your genealogy, understanding family dynamics, and understanding just the psychology behind it and managing and building a good family structure. On top of that, then we'll have a sound bowl healing session. So for those who want to close out the night in a nice meditative way, that'll be really good, right? And then obviously on Sunday, we'll have the outdoor activities where we'll have archery, we'll have horseback riding, we'll have what do you call it? Paintball, we'll have um, human soccer ball. I mean, like all the things that you can think of, we'll probably have it there, right? So that'll be the last day. So be sure to share this with family, friends, things, people who are in the Dallas or just wanted to understand what this actual organization does, right? So I won't spend too much time. If you want to get more information, you can scan the QR code or you can go to hawapdfw.org. Okay. Now I know this is I have to tell you the why. So why is it so important that you manage your finances and why that actually matters? Because 57% of Americans can't even cover $1,000 expense or an emergency expense. That's really the issue. That's literally half of the global planet, at least in America, right? And then on top of that, what if something does pop up where you do need to pay for a car, you have to pay for a death or whatever the case is, right? Most people can't even cover it. Most people don't even have $1,000, $500 to their name. Peace, family. Good to see you, sis. Good to see you. You're doing great work. And we want to get past that, right? So that you can do ventures like investing, business ventures, entrepreneurship, or just even basic, just making sure that you have a stable household. Most 78% of people live paycheck to paycheck, meaning there's nothing left over, right? They're swimming in debt. They're spending way more than they make, and therefore they're living paycheck to paycheck. And they're not even investing it. They're not doing anything like that. These are just expenses. And then 96K is the average household debt in the US. And that's a lot of debt. And so we'll talk about some practical stuff because this is about taking control, right? And I'll give you exactly some of the things because I've seen this many times. So this is literally the 4 pillars that really should be in your mind. Earn, budget, save, and invest. Earn, budget, save, and invest. Earn, budget, save, and invest. That's it. If you know how much you earn, how much you bring in from different revenue sources, then you can properly budget. If you don't have a budget, that means you're going to overspend. You're not going to understand what's actually going in, what's coming out. You may have hidden charges. You may have overdraft charges, stuff like that you may not even realize that are actually outweighing how much you are making or bringing in. And that way you understand that, okay, this is how much I can go to here. I can pay off this. I can do that. And then I can take that money to save. We're talking about some of the things that you can do automatically. This is not going to be a long seminar. This is not going to be a long class either. This is going to be something that is just going to be a series that we're going to do. And we'll get into the businesses, how to actually manage, finances for businesses, because that's also important for people who have businesses and they want to understand how to manage it, whether it be a trust, an LLC, stuff like that, right? You want to save for a rainy day, or you just want to save just in general, right? And then you want to invest because this is really how you grow your wealth. This is how you grow your finances. If you never invest, you never take the risk. You're losing the value of the quote unquote US dollar every day because of inflation. So your saving rate is not even going to keep up. So that's why you want to make sure you have enough to save that in case you do lose it, it's not going to kill you. It's not a big deal. You can recover over a period of time. So that's important. So that's why I make sure you understand that part. Okay. Then obviously you want to invest. You want to invest because there's specific things that are trends. There's specific things like, blockchain, AI, cryptocurrency, stocks, businesses that are booming that you may want to play in automation. And it does real estate. It just takes a little bit of investing calculated risk so that in case something does happen, it's not the end of the world, right? Okay, 50-30-20 rule. You have needs, 50% of it is needs. Rent, groceries, utilities, transportation, insurance, family, blah, blah, blah. You do need that stuff. If you don't have a place to live, if you don't have a roof over your head that's stable, you're worried about what am I going to do to pay rent? If you're not eating, you're not getting your proper nutrition, you start falling ill, then you go to the hospital. You don't have utilities, you don't have no lights. How are you going to get to work? How are you going to get to, if you don't have transportation? You got to pay for the bus, stuff like that. And then insurance is, get your teeth cleaned. If you need car insurance, right? Because you don't want to get tickets because that's more expensive. And then you got the wants. You do have to have fun, y'all. So going out, dining out with family, friends, your spouses, right? You're out and about. Maybe it's even hobbies, but also to travel, right? Travel is important. That's how you get to see the world. That's how you get to explore. That's how you get to do all these different things. You're not locked in, and that's how it grows your perspective. And then you have subscriptions, that are basically ones like Netflix and stuff like that. And then you got the savings and debt. So you got debt that you may need to pay off. So maybe you have a business debt because you probably invested in something that, maybe it's taking a little bit longer to, come back and return. So you're managing that business debt. But if it's not that, then you have personal debt because you basically mismanage your spending. So you're spending a credit card because they gave it to you for free. For now, that's how they bait people. They like, here's a credit card. Spend as much as you want. Pay back with 29% interest. So you end up paying more than what the actual debt that you've incurred. And that's how it snowballs into burying people. And then you got to make sure you have an emergency fund like we talk about. That's very important. And then, obviously they call it things like retirement and stuff like that. But basically, if you're not able to work, not everybody's going to be wanting to work. Do you have something set aside that's like a goose egg that will provide you some type of compensation, whether you do something or not? That is the important part. Because you may be 98 and you don't mind working, like you're working up until you're 106, but then you fall ill for whatever reason. Is your business going to survive without you? Do you have something that's going to provide some form of compensation, even though you're not working your business or stuff like that, right? Is the business able to run without you? These are things you want to think about. So that's why it's that 50, 30, 20% budget ratio. So when you're building your emergency fund, this is very important. You got to set a goal. I would tell people at least 60 to 100K set aside in case something happens. You need to have something. Like to have zero is, that's not going to work. But you need to at least have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses dedicated into an account that you can pull from that's liquid. That's important. And then open up a separate account, such as like a high savings yield account. We talked about this before, but there's like accounts like Capital One, but obviously there's a class action lawsuit against them because they're not actually paying out the yields that they're supposed to, right? But there's other companies that you can go for, like American Express. They have a decent, savings yield account. I think Barclays have something. I think Lending Club is another one. So there's a few other people that you can use from, and you can just Google it. Usually I just go to nerdwallet.com to see who's got the base savings rate for this year, right? Because it always sometimes fluctuates. And then just contribute to it automatically. That's the point. You're not even thinking about it. You just, whoop, it's automatic. You don't even think about it. You get compensated at this time. You know it. It's like, that's how you build it, right? And it's only supposed to be used really when it's a dire, that means you couldn't pull a rabbit out of the hat before you have to use this account. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. And that's how you're supposed to treat your mindset like this. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay. All these things. So we've talked about it in the past with when it comes to the mindset, the subconscious mind, and stuff like that. There's an importance for all that because let's say you do get out of debt and you do come into money, but you didn't work on the mindset, programming new software into your subconscious mind, your automatic response is like, ah, man, I'm just going to spend it. And you're not even thinking about it. It's like your default mode network goes in autopilot. And this, it happens to everybody. If you don't program it to a specific behavior or circumstance, this is the reality. If you look up default mode network, DMN, we've talked about this before, but this is important because you get out of debt and then you're like, ah, cool, cool, cool. And then you either go into fear mode where you're like, oh, I don't want to go, I don't want to do anything. And that's scarcity, right? Like you should be thinking of abundantly, right? Or you go, oh man, yeah, I just spend, and then you're back into debt. That is the problem too. So it has to be somewhere where you're right in the middle, like you're aware, you know what you want to be, you know how you want your lifestyle to be, you know you want to live this kind of way, do these kind of things with your business or with your family, stuff like that. That's how you keep out. But the mindset, the programming has to be there. So let's talk about these two methods basically of getting out of debt. You list all the debts that you have from the highest interest down to the lowest. What are the minimums? What are the pay minimums of the debt? Do you have extra money that you can put towards those debts so that you can get out of debt faster? Right. So that once that's paid off, then you can roll into the next one. And then you roll down into the next one. Then you roll down into the next one. Snowball method is you can basically list all the debts from lowest to high. You can pay the minimum on all the debts and go that way from the lowest because you knock out the ones with the lowest amount of debt and then you knock them out. Or you could do where you get a loan that's low interest rate for let's say 2-3 years, like 0%, and then you start paying down. So you take that loan, you pay off those credit cards or whatever loans you have, and then you focus on that one loan with one interest rate. Boom, done. There's different ways, right? The whole point about this is that you need to be aware, you need to know, be honest with what is actually happening in your bank account. So like when I ask people, have you actually looked at your bank account? And in the sense of, okay, I know this is what's coming in. I know what is going out. I know what I have to pay for. Does and this is a question for the chat. Do y'all have budgets at your house? If you don't have a budget, you need to talk to somebody. You can talk to us at Hawab DFW, or you can talk to anybody, right? But we recommend that you have some type of budget so that you're not overspending, you're not underspending, and you're aware of what's coming in, what's going out. Once you have this, you can apply the same method to your business. You know exactly what's coming in, you know exactly what's coming out. You know that for businesses, you need a domain, you need a e-commerce platform. Usually now it's at a monthly subscription or a website that, builder that you build your own, which has a yearly payment. And then on top of that, you have, expenses that will occur from when people purchase things from you. There's like a 2% interest rate when they're using the e-commerce platform to buy things from you. So these are the things that you want to think about, right? So anyway, okay. So this is what we've talked about this before. Of course, like, how do I say this? We've talked about this in many different ways. So some people may work and they have a 401k. If you have a 401k from the employer that you're working for or contracting with, you should utilize that because that's free money that you don't want to leave on the table. You never want to leave free money on the table, ever, because it's free. And though it's an expensive savings account, but at least somebody's putting money apart from you into that account because they're matching whatever you put in. So boom. The other thing is that we've talked about this before from stocks. You could do index funds. You could do REITs. the idea is that these different vehicles are able to bring you some type of revenue. When we talked about the REITs, Fundrise, right? These are things that I don't know how else to explain to people who are watching or just who ask me, but these are vehicles that you want to utilize to diversify that could bring you returns of your money versus just sitting all in one account or a couple of different accounts and savings accounts and stuff like that. There's always a risk. Just keep that in mind. There's always a risk. Don't invest in anything that you're not willing to lose. And that's also important. So if you go invest into a private company, a private startup, they can go belly up. They can definitely go belly up. So you want to be aware of that. And then the same thing goes with the stocks, right? They go up, they go down, same thing with crypto. They go up, they go down, they're volatile, very volatile. So you want to pay attention to trends and stuff like that. So I know we're not going into the specific details. I'm trying to give you an idea of how you should be thinking about it. If you see an investment opportunity that you want to, partake in, understand that it can go to zero, but it may not go to zero. Everybody's heard the story before, but like there was a company called Sullivan. This is a innovative company no one heard of down in Houston, removing tattoos using ultrasonic. So that means non-invasive, using ultrasonic sound vibrations. Everybody knows that sound can remove anything. It can penetrate the skin. It can penetrate anything. It penetrates walls, depending on the frequency. So they developed that, removing tattoos using ultrasonic. They eventually got bought after they went public. They went public and then they got bought. Obviously, that was a return twice. So stuff like that can happen, right? Or maybe there's a close family relative or somebody in your organization that wants to start a business and they tell you exactly what the game plan is. And you're like, okay, I like the model. I see you understand what you're doing. So you contribute. Be patient. That's what you have to do, is just be patient. So anyway, you get the idea of what I'm trying to. There's different ways of getting different vehicles going, but the whole point is that you want to get these vehicles going so that way you're not stuck or you're not falling behind in debt, stuff like that, right? So good. I'm glad that's good you have a budget. That's good. So this is the action plan. I told you I'm not doing long sessions. I'm getting straight to the point. This is the action item that you want to do. You need to track your expenses every month. In a spreadsheet, in an app, they have many apps that do that will track your expenses. Relatively easy. So track it every day. Know what's going in, know what's going out. Know how much you're bringing in, know how much you're sending out. How much are you saving? Are you making sure that account doesn't exist in your mind? Knowing that, yep, I know what I'm doing. Open up a high yield savings account. We've talked about this before several times. There's several of them. There's Capital One. We talked about this. Berkeley, American Express, Lending Club. There's many different banks, but you want to go with the bank that has the highest rate for the, I guess, lowest maintenance cost. Because sometimes some of these banks have maintenance costs to open up your account and keep it open. You don't want to have to keep paying $2, $3 because that defeats the purpose. You want something that is automatically withdrawn from your other accounts or money that you're depositing or whatever every month without even thinking about it. Make sure that you understand if you do have a 401k, are you utilizing it, right? And then just make sure you understand what your debts are, what your balances are, what the minimum payments are, what the interest rates are, because that's what's going to dictate and what's going to actually keep you in debt or is going to actually free you, right? Calculate your income, calculate your compensation, understand what your fixed expenses are. So you need to know the difference between wants and needs. Okay. And then lastly, this is an investment opportunity, right? So we talk about different things that are investment opportunities. There's a class being developed by a company, Aboshi Cacao, and they have a class on import and exporting and just understanding the basics, understanding how to get into understanding the regulations, compliance, the certifications, stuff like that. If you want to get into importing, exporting goods from different countries and bringing them into the US. Um, and understand the supply chain, understand, what is the proper way of sourcing goods and market entry and stuff like that, right? And then obviously branding and stuff like that. So go to aboshicacao.com if you want to sign up for this class. And I believe the CEO, Kwahu, will be discussing this in more detail, I think next week. So be on the lookout for that. To read the question, what are you saying? What you're saying is important. Being aware of what you have and what you spend is obviously key. Many people don't write this down to visually see it all. Thank you for the reminders. Oh, absolutely. Like I said, this is some of the things that when I'm talking to people that like the question is, do you know how much you bring in? Like that'd be my first. How much does everybody know how much they bring in on a monthly basis? And what does that look like? And some people don't know how to answer that question. They're like, oh, I don't know. Sometimes, it's this, sometimes it's that. Um, I don't know. Some people don't even know what the expenses are. Sometimes they be going the light bill they ain't even paid, and then they get cut off and stuff like that, and they're wasting their money on clothes and shoes that don't even make sense. So yeah, I think writing it down and having a spreadsheet actually makes sense, because this is what financial planners do. This is what your CFOs within your company, if you're hiring for within your company, they want to know how much the expenses that the business is accruing, because that's how they're going to be able to say, okay, we can venture out and buy another company, or venture out and buy more things and more equipment that the business needs overall. And that's writing it down. So you start with your own within your household, then you can venture out into your organizations and businesses that you start. Facts. Yeah. I still haven't touched my Fundrise, and it's helping me learn to budget and keep a serious fund that never get exactly. Um, I can't express that enough. That like, if you don't invest, let's just Google something real quick. And I got 2 minutes left, so I'm gonna keep it under 30 because I'm not trying to keep y'all here forever. Um, do you understand that the Federal Reserve did that? They've made a command that these banks don't have to hold no dollars. The minute that your dollars deposit into that bank, they're loaning it out. So that's why when people try to withdraw $10,000, they're like, "Why are you trying to withdraw $10,000?" um, give us a couple of days. Come into the branch. We need to ask you some more questions. That's just them stalling, because they're like, "Oh, we got to make sure that we have the money so that we can give it to you." So keep that stuff in mind, right? If you don't save, something happens, then what do you do? And then you also have to keep in mind, when you start a family, you still have to have a budget. You still have to understand what is coming in, what's going out. These are good reminders. These are like, and if you wanted to get a spreadsheet create, you could just ask ChatGPT to do it for you. Don't matter. Or you could download budget spreadsheet from the household or whatever. Google it. There's plenty of it online that you can download and use. So that's the whole point. So as you look at it, you know what's going in. You can be honest with yourself. It's one when you're honest at the beginning, then okay, I know this is how this is going to work. I know what my month is looking like. I know what my year is looking like. I know what happened throughout the year. So when people are like, "Hey, where's your money go?" It went to my business here. It went to my savings account here. It went to paying off debt. It went this, that, and the third. And this is how you grow your money. So that's really all that I had today, y'all. I appreciate y'all tuning in for class today. We're going to continue to do these things. Definitely at the cultural wellness event, we're going to go in a little bit more in depth. We're going to have, depending, it may be hands-on application, maybe asking questions, showing y'all exactly what you can do, stuff like that, and then how you actually look at specific things to invest in or not invest in, or savings account. How do you, like, all that stuff can be done online. Like, you don't even have to go to a bank, a branch, a physical branch to get a high yield savings account. It's how easy it is. So anyway, if there's no questions, no other comments, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Share this video with a loved one that wants to get in and understand how they can take control of their finances, because that's very important. This is how you're going to get yourself out of debt, being buried in bad debt, and actually building actual real wealth. So appreciate y'all, and we'll see y'all next week. Peace, family.